in the beginning of our Parsha, Pharaoh has two dreams. And the Torah tells us that Pharaoh told his magicians about the dreams, but ein poser osam leFaraon, that none of them were able to interpret them for Pharaoh. Rashi quotes a medrash that the magicians did try to interpret the dreams. They gave an interpretation that Pharaoh was going to have 7 daughters, but all 7 of his daughters were going to die, and he would have to bury all of them. And Rashi said that when the pasuk says "Ein poser osam leFaraon," it means that they gave interpretations, but none of them were leFaraon. None of them were sufficient for Pharaoh. At this point, Yosef is brought in to Pharaoh and provides the interpretation of the dreams that 7 years of bounty were going to come, followed by 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh is satisfied with this interpretation and goes so far as to appoint Yosef as the viceroy of Egypt. It seems strange that Pharaoh, after being uncomfortable and not satisfied with the magician's interpretation, is so happy and so pleased with Yosef's interpretation. What's the difference between Pharaoh's magicians and Yosef? Both of the interpretations are troubling to Pharaoh, one on a personal level and one on a national level. So why did Yosef's interpretation give what Rashi calls koras ruach, a sense of calm, to Pharaoh? The Mefarshim bring a few approaches to this question. Many make a diuk in the pasuk, which says that Pharaoh told Chalomo, his dream, in the singular, to the magicians, and that they were not able to interpret Osam, they weren't able to interpret why the dream was really 2 dreams. Whereas Yosef, in the end, was able to explain why the dream was repeated twice to Pharaoh. The Maharshal says that Pharaoh wasn't calmed by the interpretation, but he was calmed by the fact that Yosef gave Pharaoh a plan of what to do about this bad news. An interesting approach, the Sifsei Chachamim quotes an Akedah, who points out that Pharaoh was a king, so he knew that his life was one of public service. Everything about his life, even his dreams, had to do with his country. And Yosef recognized this in interpreting the dream. So Pharaoh was satisfied with Yosef's interpretation because it aligned with Pharaoh's experience, that everything in his life has to do with his country. The magicians, on the other hand, thought that Pharaoh's dream was about himself. It was it was telling him something that was going to happen in his personal life. This distinction between the magicians and Yosef is a fundamental part of the Hanukkah story as well. The Maharal describes the conflict between the Hellenists and the Jewish people along these same lines, that while Greek philosophy emphasized perfection of oneself, Judaism focuses on service of Hashem, including being empathetic people, thinking about how our actions affect others. We're not all kings like Pharaoh, but Yosef gives us an example of the difference between Judaism and some of the surrounding cultures, like that of the Hellenists. Like a king, each Jew should recognize that their life is one of service. Service first and foremost to Hashem, and also one where we have the opportunity to make a positive impact on the world. The Medrash in Bereshis Rabbah says that the phrase in the beginning of the Torah, "Choshech al pnei tehom," the word choshech refers to Greece. Even though Greek culture was thought to be enlightened, it was considered one where they learned and understood the world on a higher level, they really were missing light, which is an understanding that our lives are not just for ourselves, but they have a higher purpose. Good Shabbos, happy Hanukkah.